funding. That will be compiled into something that we can discuss at more of a workshop setting, so we can get more feedback from the board and from the public on what we can move forward with. Next, we have the Community and Strategic Partner Relations. This will be a leading public organization within the San Miguel community. We will facilitate mission-related informational workshops for the overall good of the community. We will enhance the current high level of community engagement, increase district interest and attendance at public meetings. This is ongoing. We're always looking for different ways that we can pull people in to
serve
participate.
Food.
We can serve food, but that kind of defeats the money saving thing.
This money I vote.
So as topics come up that require or warrant workshops or additional special meetings, then those will be scheduled as necessary. Again, we're somewhat limited as far as what we can do and how we can engage with the community based on what our district functions are. Increase our level of presence and influence with county-related planning and decision-making. Establish and maintain relationships with our county supervisors and county staffers. We have a pretty good relationship with our supervisors, staff, maybe not necessarily the supervisors, but we do work pretty well with the county staff in general through planning and building, public works. At the supervisor's office, they don't always make it up here to visit, but we do invite them, and they ask for our input quite frequently. It just doesn't go the other way sometimes.
How about their stormwater people?
They come here.
Yes, they do. Move on.
We work pretty well with them. They have their policies and they have to follow their policies, just like we do. We will achieve certification for transparency from C.S.D. We did receive a distinction of transparency certificate a couple years ago. But our goal is to continue achieving that certificate and continue or to achieve the distinction certificate. All of these certificates are somewhat predicated on the board doing their training, doing some additional training, attending conferences. So anything that board members can do to help facilitate that. I mean, it's a small thing, but it does mean a lot for the district and potentially for the public in their view of the district. We'll continue to work with the board members to ensure that they're familiar with district policy and expected behavior, continue to work with the board to take training and attend conferences to achieve distinction certificate and achieve transparency certificate, continue to maintain the documentation as needed. And we'll participate in opportunities we're almost done, I swear. We'll participate in opportunities for our community to collectively plan and strategize for a prosperous future. And here we'll consider ways to help in a bigger way as a community that is somewhat limited, again, due to our district. And we'll allow use of our prime location for development of business partnerships and supporting conditions and planning for growth and overall economic development, including groups like C.S.D, Chamber, Advisory Council, and other public groups formed for the overall good of San Miguel. Again, this one is one of those that is always sort of in progress, and we're always monitoring for opportunities. There are just not a lot of them out there at the moment, but we are keeping our eyes open and our ears open. And we will take deliberate steps to communicate about district achievements. We will begin making more deliberate and formal press releases to broad media set, deliberately getting to word out of the beneficial actions to the district. At previous meetings, the board has chosen not to participate more in social media. However, we are releasing press releases to sort of commemorate milestones for the district. And we've done a few more of those this year than we have in previous years.
Were those publicized?
They're sent to the Paso Press and the Tribune.
Yeah, I have a list, there's like
Yeah.
5 or 6 different,
Okay.
KSBY, all of them. Just send them out.
Thank you.
And I told you it was almost done, and we're almost done. So basically, at this point, if there's obviously any questions, we can talk about them. If there's things that the board thinks need to come back for further review or revision, then we can definitely do that. We have the ones for number 3 and number 4 for the fire department that we'll schedule to come back. If there's any other ones, then we can schedule to bring those back as well.
Any board comment or questions? Yes.
On slide 3, you mentioned building a water storage tank on St. Lawrence Terrace. Are we changing the location of that tank at our own expense?
Are we changing the location of the tank?
When you build a new tank,
Yes.
are we moving it to facilitate the developer that's trying to build houses? Are we building it on the same footprint?
We're building, the proposal was to build it at the corner of River Road and Power Road, where we currently have a small booster station that would be replaced. The new tank would be placed at the top of the hill next to the power station.
Oh, interesting.
And that was, I don't know if you were available for that report. If you haven't gotten the report on the analysis of where the new tank could go or booster station would go. If you haven't gotten that, I can get that to you.
Have we done an analysis on the quality of the water at that location?
There wouldn't be a well there.
We'd still be pumping it from the well to down there?
So the water would still come from the west side across the bridge and or be backfed from the well that's over there or potentially new wells that are over there.
New wells? Do you have sites that have been chosen for possible lease?
There's other sites that are part of a development that currently we're working with the developer
To do a well?
to acquire the wells that are on that property.
So then what would be done? Would we still be moving that other tank?
So that other
as a
tank,
backup?
that other tank would need to move. Part of, there's two main issues with that tank. One, location, and 2, the size.
Well, I understand the size part, but the location wasn't bad until somebody wanted to develop the property.
Well, that's not really super relevant. I mean, it could stay there,
Yeah.
but it's still too small.
Right,
So
right, no, I get that.
In order to increase the pressure, it needs to move. And long term, even if it doesn't move and we don't increase pressure, it would still need to be increased to a 250, or, if it's only going to stay right there, then it would need to be bigger.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So one way or another, it would be replaced.
You already have a property where you would otherwise locate the tank?
So the property at River Road and Power Road was approved by the county to come to the district.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No.
But we have an analysis of that. If you haven't seen that report, I'd be more than happy to get it to you and talk to you about it.
Okay. I know you've been working on this water treatment plan upgrade for a long time. Are there any ways to scale back that project to avoid raising rates over and over again?
So, because of the limited funding, that project would be, it would be phased to install what's required for compliance and for treatment. And then the other structures, the other facilities that were proposed, if the funding is not there for those, would be delayed. So
Delayed or scaled back? I mean,
delayed or scaled back.
Originally you had a huge building.
yeah, initially they would be delayed until another option was presented, whether that's, scrapping it altogether or, putting in some other option, scaling something back. The critical components of that are the treatment process, which is a large chunk of that money, and the infrastructure and the site changes for that treatment process. The rest of it is, in my opinion, is necessary long-term, but is not necessary for compliance. And the goal in the main driver of this is compliance.
If we bought that building at a reasonable rate, would you be able to live in that for 20 years?
I don't think we could live in that for 20 years, but there are other options that are less expensive.
I'd like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Bring that back.
I believe I have something scheduled for the next couple months to talk about our projects in general, so if you want to wait for that, we can do that, or if you want a specific conversation, we can do that too.
No, I can.
And I'm always available if you want to come down in the meantime.
I'd rather have a public discussion.
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to have that too. But if you have questions in the meantime, or if you need clarification to help drive that discussion before the board meeting, I'd be more than happy to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right. I've got a question or comment. I think that office space you have down there is fine, and to me, ever since day one, that 9,200 square foot building down there is a total waste of the people's money. And the letter from the state said that treatment plant needed to be upgraded. It didn't say anything at all about a completely new treatment plant. And like I think the last I heard, the cost on it now is you're looking at about $40 million, and so on. Now, how is 900 people going to afford $40 million? Even though I know you say it's granted, but there's no grant money, so.
Well, that's not the case. We do have $23 million that's being awarded to the district for this purpose. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, that this project would be phased in such a way that we meet our compliance needs before we meet the other needs long-term. So the treatment process would be upgraded to meet current permitting standards. The site would have to be modified in order to meet those permitting standards. The other facilities like an office or storage buildings would have to be delayed or altogether removed in order to bring the project down to where it's feasible. I can't say for sure that there wouldn't be some sort of out-of-pocket for the district, but the goal would be to bring it into that $23 million range so that we can move this forward, stay in compliance, and do what we need to do on that side before we start considering building out the rest of it. In the future, maybe there's other funding available and we can build out the rest of it. And if not, then we know for sure that we're compliant. In regard to the comment about it need to be upgraded and not totally replaced, in order to meet current compliance standards and to meet our current permit, we had to change the process. There's not enough buildable land there to continue with the same process we have and meet the state's requirements. So we had to change to some sort of digester or membrane bioreactor. The membrane bioreactor is what we're going to. That was the most cost-effective way to move forward. If we were to stay with ponds, we would have to either build another treatment plant somewhere and pump water from one to the other to get enough treatment capacity, or we would have to fill in that whole hillside to build out essentially the whole plant again to have enough volume to provide the treatment. So again, that is in a report. If you would like to see the report, I'd be more than happy to get it to you. But that was an analysis that was done in the beginning before we did any design work.
Well, like I said, if you eliminate 9,200 square feet, that's a pretty good area right there.
Yeah, the building is expensive.
So, well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that that's gonna give you more room.
Well, space isn't a problem when you're changing to a different process.
Yeah.
The pond system that we have now, it takes up the most space.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
I have something to say.
Okay.
This was discussed by the board before in detail. And part of the discussion was if we build something now or downsize it now and we need more in the future, the costs are going to go up exponentially into the future. So delay it now, keep it small, do nothing, would cost you more in the future for the citizens of San Miguel. The thing that's in there now is a meeting place for the community. I think it's important going forward, and the community needs that. So instead of looking right in front of us, we should look into the future. People need to have vision about what's going to happen in the future here. And if you're not going to build a facility to accommodate the future, then what are you doing? You're staying in the past. So that's my comment on it.
Any other comments?
What do we pay to meet here, 50 bucks?
It's $50 an hour.
You're never gonna beat that building, a 9,000 square foot building.
So we don't necessarily have to have a separate meeting room. We can continue to meet here as long as they allow us to. There's obviously not a lot of meeting rooms in this town. This, as bad as the acoustics are in this building, it's still better than the community center. But as Director Smiley pointed out, you do have to look long-term. And
Agreed.
we think at this point that all costs are going to escalate up, and that's been the trend for decades and decades. We could come to a point where the cost comes down a little bit. It's very unlikely, especially in this current climate, but it's not impossible, I guess. But you do have to look, especially on large capital investments like this, you have to look at the end of the life of what you're building. So that treatment plant theoretically has a 30 to 50 year lifespan. So you have to design it to last 30 to 50 years. If you're going to build an office, that office could last 50 years. You take care of it, it might last you 100 years. So you have to design something that's going to last you as far out as you can see. In this district, maybe it's not here in 100 years. Maybe it's 5 times bigger than Paso in 100 years. Who knows? But you do have to have that forethought to look ahead and plan accordingly.
Mr. President, can I make another comment? I think what you really need to do here is ask yourself, is San Miguel going to grow? Are we going to grow along with it? Or are we going to be left behind? I've been here a long time. Both communities, Templeton has grown. Remember when it was 300 people down there in Templeton? It hasn't stayed the same. It has grown. And as the community grows, then the services have to grow and move along with it. So I think what we need to do is have more vision for the future. And instead of concentrating on right now, what can we do to reduce the cost? We have to look into the future and see what's going on. And that's my comment.
I like that broader strategic plan comment, but we were getting pretty close to deliberating on something very specific, and so I think we really need to wrap up
Yeah. I have two things.
specific conversation.
I have two things. I agree with everything said, but our responsibility is to contain in our strategic ideas and strategic plan the ability to fund things. Obviously, there's only so much money, and we don't have the ability to collect a significant amount of funding through our ratepayers, so we have to rely on grants. So I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this strategic plan. Two things, one for Kelly, note on the acoustics. Did we not have microphones at one point or another that could be utilized in this space, or no?
We used to have some, and they really didn't help that much.
Okay.
We could look into new ones. I'm sure they're a lot better than the ones we have.
Yeah. If they're necessary. If the public can hear us, I don't know that's super necessary, but just a point of question. Secondly, on the slide that talks about enhancing the current high-level communication, or community engagement rather, I know we're not really doing anything unless it's mission-related, meaning that there's a whole point to a workshop. Have we ever considered having like a quarterly workshop just to touch base with the community to inform them of what's going on with the district, services provided, or community engagement opportunities, things like that?
I don't know that that was specifically discussed, but it's something that we can do.
Better serve food.
Well, food or beer, I mean, one or the other is probably, anyway.
Well, it's kind of neat because we can't drink while we're working. So.
Well, just food for thought.
Everybody else can.
I think that if we had a quarterly engagement with the community, we'd appreciate it. I mean, I think that, having the community knowledgeable about what's going on with the district, what we're doing, what our purpose is, will only strengthen the relationship between the community and district staff and the board as a whole.
Yeah.
That's my comment. Any other board comments? Do we have any public comment?
Yes, thank you, Greg Raywald. You had a slide on there that talked about water and GSAs and the PDCC and how there was all these great projects to protect the basin. All those projects are in the toilet. The one that you guys had, where you had to spend almost $800,000 to get $1 million without any guarantee of even selling the treated water that you couldn't treat in a pipeline that nobody had a contract for, was ridiculous. The $3.5 million that Castle did, now they are not selling their wastewater because they're worried about getting sued on PFAS contamination. Which, almost a year ago, Tascadero is contaminated to their wells with PFAS and has flyers that go out in the water not to drink the water to the ratepayer. You talk about keeping lower rates for your ratepayers, and how low would their rates be right now if you didn't waste all their money on legal fees? So you created the problem. They didn't have a 218 vote on they wanted to be in the lawsuit, but you guys, and I don't mean in particular, I mean whatever board at the time, decided that that was a good thing. 10 years of Sigma, all they've done is pay consultants and saved 1 cup of water. I see no mention from 2019 of a court order that was given to all the people from the lawsuit on what they can take from the basin. If you're claiming the basin has a problem, that has to be part of your documents on what you're allowed to take from the basin. And when you're looking at growing, or like, I understand you want to get rid of the septic systems to drag water through a thing to clean it in a facility that's not big enough to clean it because you need a new facility, when the septic systems are approved state recycling. So all that water that's being used by those people is being recycled where your other water is not. That's your project. Your project is recycling what you're using, so you're putting back what you took. That's your project. Stormwater capture is your project. You can grow when you get more resources, but if you don't have the more resources, I don't know how you grow. Just the few slides that I saw, I think it's more important. Yeah, it's nice to look in the future and you want some other special things. You gotta live within your means. There's plenty of old buildings out there. In fact, about a week ago, I was eating dinner and having cocktails in the Alamo. It's still standing.
Thank you. Do you have any other public comment? No. All right. Did we provide enough direction?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. We move on to item 10.3, 2025 Integrated Waste Management Authority Board of Director election.
2 seconds, please.
Yep.
Sorry, where's this?
You can have it. I don't want it. This item is to review and potentially vote or provide direction to vote on one candidate by board consensus for a seat on the Integrated Waste Management Authority, IWMA Board of Directors. There are two candidates, Mr. Robert Enns from the Sanitary District and Mr. Naveed Faradansh, sorry, for Templeton Community Service District. He is here today, if you give him a couple seconds to talk about himself. After that, the board can, take public comment, but the board can either provide direction to vote for one or the other, or neither.
Okay. Please.
Good evening, board president and board members. My name is Dr. Naveed Faradansh. I am one of the two candidates that's running for the 4-year term for IWMA. As you've seen on my resume and letter of interest, I am on Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors. I am just starting my 3rd year and I'm currently the chair of C.S.D. I have been on the refuse committee for Templeton for many years. Just recently we had to go through the provider needed to be changed from solid waste to waste management, so I was involved with looking at the contract negotiations as well as transition. So I'm very familiar with the waste haulers, from their perspective, how things look, as well as what the districts need to be looking for in the future. I've also attended the previous 2 IWMA annual meetings. Those were very educational. During those meetings, they went over all the facilities that are in the county, as well as the educational programs that they offer for our residents, and the legislations that's coming down the pipelines for us. There's always, there's always a changing landscape there, so we always have to be aware of those. My goal to you is as your representative, would be to have better communications from IWMA, as well as to be able to take your inputs, your suggestions back to the other board directors and discussing that with them. The other goal that I have as the IWMA representative would be to closely monitor the budget, because IWMA rates effectively directly affect our ratepayers. So we want to make sure that everything is fair, and ask questions when you see something that's is questionable. So I will always be prepared for these meetings. I will ask questions, and I will be working collaboratively with everyone to try to make IWMA more successful. As you know, there was a lot of problems with it before, but I think it's turned around, and I want to make sure that we continue that. So I hope I have your support, and I ask for your vote. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Questions? I have a question. So if you were elected as our representative, how do you foresee the engagement between your position on IWMA and our community or board of directors?
Well, this is big one, making sure that I try to attend meetings. Obviously I live in Templeton, so it's not too far. And also I attend the C.S.D. local chapter meeting, so my my vision was that I could be giving updates on that during those meetings. I'm not sure whether you guys attend those, but those are usually great. It's a great opportunity to be able to communicate what's happening with IWMA. So that would be another way. And also, working with the staff, general manager, if they want to communicate with me, or I could send out, emails as when important legislations that's coming down the pipeline that we need to be aware of. So those would be some of the ideas I have. Obviously, I'm open to suggestions if you think there's other ways possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You mentioned, you're working on budgetary items. You mentioned that you're a retired dentist.
Yes,
Do
I
you
am.
have any background in finance or financial transparency, things like that, that would ensure a watchful eyes on the budget and spending of IWMA?
Well, I've been on the Templeton board for many years, and we always are obviously, just like you guys, always involved with looking at the budget, the finances, asking questions. I've also been on the committee for finance for a couple of years, so that's where we sit down and look at every line item. And just recently, beginning of the year, our fire department, we were having problems with the budget, so I created an ad hoc committee, and then with the help of the staff as well as another board member, we sat down, looked at all the line items, and we were able to find places where we could save money, where we could move money to our fire department. So I do have that kind of success, knowledge, as well as I ran my own business for 20 some odd years, and you have to know what's happening with the profit loss, and so I feel very comfortable looking at the financial aspect of
Okay,
it.
great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Need consensus?
Need public comment.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Is there public comment on this item?
Murray Powell, I'm a Templeton resident, and I know this gentleman pretty well. I've been to a few Templeton C.S.D. meetings, and I think he does a great job, and I highly recommend him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powell. Is there any other public comment? All right. Do we have consensus or direction by the board?
My ballot.
It's on my ballot too.
So you would elect to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the pure fact that he came out
Yes.
and talked to us.
No, I agree.
That tells me he's proactive and
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Yes. So vote for Naveen.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.